Scars and Spikes, Sydney, Tyler, Tommy with you on a Wednesday night. Welcome in, everybody, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or listening on the podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Tyler is holding up a baby eagle with a flag.
USA. USA.
Don't do that.
USA.
I don't care if they barely made it through. His name's Eagly, by the way.
A what?
His name is Eagly.
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 Oh,
Okay.
I know what that's from.
Yeah.
What is that from?
Peacemaker.
Yep.
Peacemaker. Never seen that.
I didn't know you were a nerd, Tyler. I didn't know you were into comic book stuff.
Well, I mean, I'm a nerd. But...
I mean, it's okay to be a nerd. You don't have to fight it.
No, I accept it. I'm totally a nerd. We're starting this one off great, guys.
Yeah,
Right.
off to a flying start. Yeah, a lot to talk about, of
Flying
course.
start. Eagle.
Hey.
Sorry, go ahead. You do your thing now.
Yes, off to a really good start here on the show. Busy show with the closing of the transfer window on Wednesday. We'll talk about Atlanta United's new signings. We'll talk about a little about the Women's World Cup. And also, guys, we have Michael Parkhurst stopping by. So
Yes, we do.
Atlanta United's first ever captain will be joining us, and we may get his thoughts on the World Cup too, to see what he thinks about what's going on at this current point in time. We have the wrong date, so I'm going to fix that on the stream as we speak. But before we do that, we have to kind of revisit what happened on Saturday against Cruz Azul. And yeah, we gotta revisit the past real quick before we move on.
Before we jump back to the future.
So while I fix this, and for those of you listening to the podcast, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. But while I do, Tyler, Tommy, give your impressions on, real quick impressions on, how things went and how Atlanta United can move forward.
So, the Leagues Cup, it is what it is. Yeah, Brandon, I feel the same way. Do we have to revisit it? We're an Atlanta United podcast. We got to talk about all of it, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of ugly recently. But, Atlanta didn't play a terrible game, honestly. They played a decent game. They weren't clinical. They had some chances. They couldn't finish them. But you still have to rely on your wonder kid from Argentina to even keep you in the game. And then it comes down to penalties. So, it sucks because you're at home. We can talk about the weirdness of the night. Cruz Azul fans were definitely there. They were doing their thing. Kudos to them.
Oh, they're all right.
Oh yeah, they were definitely there. Along with their smoke and the Easter Bunny randomly. That was kind of cool. And just random little things like that. But I mean,
Fights, right?
Fights, plenty of fights. Yeah, we had at least 3 right below us. And I heard about plenty of other ones throughout the stadium, but not a wonderful night for the security team at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I mean, not necessarily that they did anything wrong, as much as I don't think they quite understood what was going on. I don't think they quite understood, like, this was not going to be your typical Atlanta United match. This was going to be very much a 50-50 split, at least, of fans that are watching both of their teams in a knockout game. You don't have that at a lot at Mercedes-Benz or at any stadium around the country, honestly. It's happened a handful of times at the Benz, but not recently and not to this degree. And yeah, I mean, they came in, they were rowdy. Everybody was rowdy. Actually, I got to give props to all the fans there, actually. But I mean, as far as the match itself, like, my 2 cents on it, wasn't the worst, but it's not good enough. It's not up to the standard. You lost. You're out of the Leagues Cup. So now that means you have to come back even stronger as you get back into the league, because that's 2 tournaments that you've been knocked out of essentially in the first round. Obviously there's 2 games in this Leagues Cup group stage that you're done on. And then of course the Open Cup against a USL Championship team back a couple months ago. So the track record's not great. So with these changes that are being made, with the new players coming in, you've got to go forward and you've got to make a difference. You've really got to prove that everybody that's on that team from the top to the bottom has to prove why they're there and that they can make a difference.
Yeah, and Mayamba, I thought, looked great. Thought that he fit the offense and defensive side both great. I think that he's got to be starting every single game for the rest of the season. Thought he was fine. There was a lot of hot takes about what Pineda was doing with the penalties. You bring in Barry. I thought it was a good idea, personally. I mean, you assume that a striker, even though he's maybe not doing great for us, is pretty good at taking penalties. You'd assume that. We don't know what's going on during practice and who's good at it, and maybe Parada's hitting it. I mean, hell, Nashville's, or not, the team that played against Nashville, their keeper is their penalty taker, right? So, like, you don't know who's actually good at and who's not unless you're watching practice. I don't know. I assume he brought his best players in for it, the ones that historically shoot well at practice. It is what it is. But Pineda looked just down. Like you heard it in his voice. I mean, you heard it after the Open Cup that he was down, but this one just really seemed to hit him hard. And
yeah, and to play devil's advocate really, really quick on the Barry comment, like, I agree. I think, we can talk about Barry and what he's been this season and everything else, but penalty kicks are a totally different game. If we're being honest, it's, he put his on target at least, right? Was it the best penalty? No, but it was on target. And, in a way I feel bad for the guy. I really do, because like, he just, just the way the universe works, if it was going to go down, it had to be him. But then Parada misses the target completely, right? But got to see him take penalties at practice, and the guy was actually banging them in. So I don't blame Pineda for putting in Miguel Barry in that situation. That's just how it is.
Who else are you going to put in then? Yeah, I mean, and before we go on, real quick, it's not Breguet's fault that they lost in penalties. I feel like it's this thing in sports where you wouldn't blame one person. Oh, it's Breguet's fault. I mean, granted, maybe he could have done better for sure, but yeah, it's not Breguet's fault that Atlanta United lost in penalties. So let's just leave that bit off to the side. But yeah, go ahead, guys. Sorry.
No, you're fine. But yeah, Pineda looked just down about it, and as he should. But Zilf asks, do y'all think Pineda's gone when they have the summer meeting? Absolutely not. Not at this point. If he was going to be gone, he would have been gone already. They would have moved quick and, had practice. They're practicing now. I heard Mike Conti say that they're already working now. I think there's availability tomorrow. Is that right? So, yeah, they're still practicing. He's here for the rest of the year. Like we said, probably at the beginning of the season, he's not going until the season's over. It had to be historically bad in the summer, like last season, where we were in the summer, for him to be gone at this point. He's going to be here till the end of the year. And, if they're feeling that they've got to start looking now, maybe he's already looking. But he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no, and yeah, it's I think with these signings he have coming in, then we'll talk about them just a little bit here. This is the last roll of the dice, really, for this season, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but we kind of said it before. Well, I said it before Leagues Cup happened. If Atlanta United just got blown out of the building, then you could make a case that, okay, maybe you do need to move on from Gonzalo Pineda. It didn't happen. And it wasn't a terrible game. It wasn't a great game either, but Atlanta United played quite an even match. Probably not in the first half. You have one mistake that really burns you. You score to level the match to at least give yourself a chance to win it in penalties, and then of course you end up not doing that. But yet it's not like Atlanta United were terrible. They weren't. There's still a lot of deficiencies that they showed during the match that we've talked about repeatedly throughout the season that came up. And yeah, like I said, it wasn't a match where you have to clean house. And I feel like some fans maybe wanted that, and not the time and place for that yet. So yeah, certainly would expect Pineda to be here for the remainder of the season. Boca to be here for the remainder of the season as well. But yeah, Leagues Cup in the rearview mirror, and with the new signings, let's see what comes of them. And again, we'll talk about those a little bit later on. But before we do that, do you guys have any final thoughts before we kind of turn the page?
I have a hot take real quick. You're
Let's
prepping.
go.
Well, you're prepping for the next transfer window, right? Like they probably take a day off or day two once the window closes, and then they start back up, right? Why does it, if they've made the decision that Boca's not going to be here, and this is just saying if they did, right? Why would you hold on to him until the end of the year? Because you're already prepping for the next window, right? The window opens almost right when the season ends. Why wouldn't you? If there was a time to replace Carlos, I would think it'd be now. I mean, that's how it works in every other league usually. As soon as the season ends or as soon as that window closes, they're out. I mean, what else can he do when the window's closed? If you were planning on getting rid of him, bringing that person down.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen. I think, again, just wait till the end of the season to see what happens. And, if all of these signings coming in, we'll talk about it again in a little bit. If all the signings are total flops, maybe you need to have a discussion about Carlos Bocanegra, not being here in 2024. I've kind of felt that he won't be. I kind of feel that, I've mentioned this before, Lagerwey will want to bring his old guy in from the technical standpoint to, get a good look at things and really enact what his vision is for the club. So that's just kind of where I stand. But yeah, again though, as far as Leagues Cup, that's a book that's closed out of Atlanta United. Now you have 3 weeks, the better part of 3 weeks, a little less than 3 weeks now to kind of sit with it and focus on getting better.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything else besides that. I mean, you've got 4 new guys that we're about to talk about, and you should be excited. Obviously, cautiously optimistic, maybe, but you're going in the right direction. Everything on paper makes sense. And we're going to talk about, because I've heard a lot of comments about, well, what about the leaky goals and this, that, and the other? Well, not everything was going to be fixed right now.
Yeah.
At all. So we're going to get into that. and we'll transition over to that in 1 second. I
Yeah.
got to give what Edgar said a quick shout. Greetings from LA. Great job as always. It's 23 now. It's 25, by the way. Just throwing that out there. 23 people watching right now. Drop some likes for the guys and subscribe. So he said it for us. We would appreciate it 100%. You guys would, if you're not subscribed already, go do it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're listening after the fact on the podcast, definitely visit us on YouTube, youtube.com/Scars and Spikes, or just search Scars and Spikes on YouTube. Give us a like, subscribe. We're almost at 500, so yes, please do that. It helps us out so much. So thank you for those that have subscribed. And if you're not subscribed, please do so.
And quick shout out to Edgar as well. He's covering LA very heavily. So go, if you're an LA fan or MLS fan in general, go give him a shout as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Hey, I saw this comment real quick. I gotta talk about it for a second. Omar, I'd rather have Rocco's Rios Novo in goal because at least he has a ceiling yet to hit. Rocco's Rios Novo couldn't hit the ceiling. He couldn't touch the ceiling if he wanted. So
is that a height joke on Rios Novo?
That's messed
of course it is. It's 1,000% a height joke. You know, De Gea for Manchester United, like I've always joked since I've been watching them, I don't think he's ever saved a penalty ever. Like it's just it is what it is. There's some that are good at it and there's some that aren't. Like that's the way it is. I don't blame him at all for any of that.
I'm glad y'all didn't put my tweet of the week up as the tweet of the week where I said, oh, hey, right before they took the penalties in the penalty shootout. And I was like, Miguel Berry just told us that he's not worried about the pressure for penalties at all because it's a crap shoot anyway.
Missed. Yeah.
Worst timing
not
ever.
The time to bring that up now. But yeah, Leagues Cup over and done with. Time to look forward.
Yes.
New signings.
Let's do it.
New signings. Jamal Thiaré, Saba Lobjanidze, Xande Silva, and of course Tristan Muyumba, who we already talked about. Let's talk about Muyumba real quick. You know, made his debut in Leagues Cup against Cruz Azul. Played the entire match. I was surprised to see him play the entire match, first off, and looked really good doing it, too. So, Tommy, I know you already hit on it. But, yeah, it's one match, just kind of to qualify that. And not to be the downer in that. But, yeah, one match after early returns looked really good on Muyumba, and yeah, I agree. I think he'll be definitely a player that will be in the starting 11 consistently. So he is on board. He has been on board for the past several weeks. But yeah, any other thoughts on Muyumba? What stood out to you guys?
It was a physical game, and he was up to it. I think that's important because for his first game, like it's hard to go into your first game when it was a different atmosphere than an MLS game. Now, there are a few MLS teams that do play that physical style and you're just getting beat up, but playing in that type of game where you're only supposed to play, maybe 45 to 60 minutes, you play all 90, you make a penalty as well, you pump the crowd up after the goal too. Bravo.
Yeah. I thought he brought everything that you needed. And again, yes, it's 90 minutes. It's a good 90 minutes. It's a good intro to the Benz for sure. It's a good intro in front of your fans and like Cruz Azul fans too. But it was a good shout. And here's the thing that I really liked. Well, first, I got to point this out because it kept getting brought up. Tristan Muyumba is an 8 that can play as a 6, not vice versa. And I think it maybe got caught up a little bit when he was in maybe the mixture of him coming here and everything because he was recently playing as a 6 because that's what his former club needed at the time. He can play both. Also, don't tie him to a number specifically. He is very forward facing. He's very fast. But if you watched him the first half when they were really trying to push, he was one of the liveliest guys on the field in the attack, but also tracking back well to defend. He got in the box and nutmegged somebody and ate somebody's soul. Like the dude was all over the place and he looked really, really good and lively, clean on the ball. unpredictable, crisp passing. Like he really was for 90 minutes, the full package. The second half, it was required of him to drop back and defend more, and he did.
Is he the Nagby replacement?
I mean, look, nobody's gonna be Nagby, but the guy showed well, and he's the closest by far Atlanta has had since Darlington Nagby left. And I can tell
that's high praise
from 90 minutes. Great hair too.
Praise.
Also, that hair got pulled in the box, which was one of the 3 penalties that should have been called that night, but I won't go there. So, but yeah, I mean, I liked him, Bruno. Yeah, I would consider him a box-to-box midfielder, but I think he's a box-to-box midfielder that has a different kind of European flair to him, that has the ability to, I would even argue, in a pinch, could play up top as a 10, like play a little higher up, because he's got the ability. He's got the, now he's not Almada, obviously, but he's got the ability to move the ball forward. And at the end of the day, that's what you want for your guy in midfield as a transition piece, so that your number 6 can just worry about being a number 6. So I can
see some of those 10-ish qualities. Not to say that obviously he's not going to be a 10, of course, but yeah, I mean, very good on the ball. A player that wasn't afraid to advance the ball into advanced areas, as he kind of said, as he kind of hit at Tyler. But again, for a player that hasn't been with the club that long, again, it's surprising to see him play all 90 minutes. And he's not going to be the Franco Ibarra replacement for sure. I don't know if he's that kind of player, but I tell you what, he had a really, really, I don't want to say rash tackle, but it was an inch perfect tackle that if he had gotten it maybe like a few inches wrong, he'd have been sent off. And part of me watching that was like, that's kind of close. He was kind of close. I hope that I hope they didn't get a leg or something like that. But yeah, he's not afraid to make those kinds of tackles. And yeah, he looked really good against.
And he's already got a yellow card in front of the home fans.
He's already got a yellow card. Yeah, good start. Tommy, what do you think? I mean, you kind of hit on it earlier, but
I just enjoyed everything about it. I mean, I think that he's going to be here for a while. I think he's exactly what we wanted. I'm fine with how the midfield is slowly starting to build. It'd be great if we still had Ibarra. It would look even better. But maybe he comes back next year, and then maybe you're complete more. Honestly, you could probably just go and get rid of Sosa and Ibarra and go find someone a little bit better for that position. But that's next window. We're done with this window.
I genuinely think that's the plan. I'll just throw this out there. But yeah, I agree.
I think so. And especially how Ibarra feels, and the talk of how he felt, and talk about getting a legal, possibly suing the team or whatever. Like, that's just a bad look. I think you move on from quite a few of these U22s, but you accomplished more than I think what any of us really thought, right? Like, I mean, we got more to talk about, but nobody I think expected 4, right? I think we were thinking 2 or 3. We got the 1, and then you had Garth Lagerwey on, and then he was saying 1, maybe 2. So, now your expectations are set at 1, right? 1 more, so you're at 2, maybe 3. You end up getting 4.
And I guess all of Turkish media for the Rossi rumors over and over again, because that just silenced everything else. Somebody in the club is on some serious like psyops type things going on. I really liked it. All for the last day.
Yeah, but Rossi to Columbus, as we already saw.
Yeah.
Not to Atlanta United. So that's Muyumba.
There's people that are mad that we didn't get Rossi. People are mad on Twitter. Like, I mean, I understand. He had a very good MLS career. I think when he left, he was okay. But, man, there were some people that really got their hearts set on bringing him in. And I think the other half, like the people that were excited, were just wanting Doug to lose in this situation, and just, Doug to delete his Twitter for about 2 weeks if that was the signing. But Doug was right. Doug's right about everything. I still think it's the green kid is the third.
I think so.
It exists for some reason.
So yeah, no Rossi, but Atlanta did bring in 2 wingers. Saba Lobjanidze, of course, we already knew about him, and coming over from Hatayspor, and I think it's how you pronounce that. I don't even know. Coming over from the Turkish First Division, but another winger that they brought on is Xande Silva, and not as a straight out signing, but as a loan with an option to make a permanent sale. So Xande Silva coming over from Dijon in Ligue 2, as did Muyamba and Thiaré, who we'll talk about a little bit later on, also Ligue 2. Thank you, Tommy. But yeah, let's talk about Saba, and Omar in the chat saying I pronounced it right. Thank you, Omar. But yeah, let's talk about Saba. I mean, we've already talked about him a little bit before the move was made permanent, but now it is coming over as a DP for now, with the intent to buy him down going into the 2023 off season, which it's a good plan. So at most, we talked about it already, maybe 2 DP slots if and when Almada is sold in the winter. But yeah, how are we feeling about Lobjanidze right now that the move is permanent?
So I'll throw this out there. I think one of the things that really stood out to me, and it kind of ties into some stuff people in the chat are talking about. First of all, Brandon, I got these names, okay? Saba Lobjanidze. I got that right well before we started any of this, like 2 weeks ago. And then the other, I got the pronunciation names. So I got this, all right? Now, you asked me some of the names of some of these Turkish clubs.
Hatayspor.
I'm going to dip out.
Never mind.
I'm the one that's going to get canceled for saying one of these names wrong. So Brandon's really calling me out here. I get it.
But no, so I think Lobjanidze, Saba, who he's now going to be known as, he's just going to be Saba. He is consistent. Knock on wood. He's consistent. The dude, when he first made it to Turkey, he started 45 of his 53 matches in 2 seasons. So that's a big deal, right? Before that, he was in Denmark, started all 38 of his appearances in that 1 year. So consistency, I like to hope, health, and again, knock on wood. He stays healthy. He seems to be a guy that you can rely on. Brooks Lennon, very similar, Mr. Reliable. But I think he's going to bring something, unpredictable, which I think at the end of the day is kind of what this team needs up front. I think that's why when you bring on some of these guys with fresh legs in the second half of matches, I think that's why you see a lot of success for Atlanta, because they get something totally different. And Atlanta does have the quality to finish chances, but they don't right now, or as it stood, a few days ago, they don't have the quality to play as a team the way that they need to. And then they're so leaky going back and forth between, attack and defense, and then of course the midfield. So I think ultimately this is a collective thing, but Saba probably going to be your right wing starter. I think Xande is going to be your left wing starter because he can play really all 3 front positions. That drops Caleb back as a left back, drops Brooks back as the right back. I think you switch back to a back 4. You have Muyamba in the middle with Almada. And then really, and I hate to say this, but the weakest link in this whole thing right now is Santiago Sosa. But you weren't changing this all in one transfer window. There's no way to do it. I wish they had Ibarra as opposed to Sosa. But I think at the end of the day, yes, there's going to be goals given up. There's going to be some craziness still. This does not solve the whole thing. But I think what it hopefully does is you've got Muyamba there, which is going to be a big, big step in the right direction. But you have wingers, you have attackers, you have Yakamaka still, you have obviously Almada still. They're going to, as a collective unit, be much more dangerous than they were before. And that's going to help out the midfield, I think, a little bit. And I think having Muyamba as a guy that can really hold down the midfield a lot better by himself, relatively speaking, That's going to allow Sosa to just sit back and be a defensive midfielder and at times drop back as that, in this formation, as the third center back. So then you essentially are dropping back to a back five when you have to defend. And he doesn't have as far back to track back because he's not good at tracking back. He's not fast enough. So I think it helps out a lot. Just because they didn't sign another defensive midfielder or another center back right now doesn't mean that the whole team can't change. I think it can, as long as they play their cards right.
Interesting, because you watched the game last week and you see Mosquera coming in before Etienne. That said a lot to me on Saturday night, because and he looked good. I thought Mosquera looked really good. I mean, he's not perfect, but he's attacking. He's attacking the defenders, and he's making them make mistakes. And he was also getting past them a few times. That's great. Now you're hopefully bringing in a couple more guys that can attack, that are more clinical, right? And then maybe you bring in Mosquera later in the game when those guys are tired and he can continue to attack. It's just sad that because you're hoping one of these signings turn into what Etienne was supposed to be, right? He was supposed to be the starter every single game. Depending on all these players and if loans stay and if they re-sign players, what everything, I'd be very curious what his future is with this team.
Yeah,
I think Mosquera might be here. I think he's got some talent, and this kid hasn't played much in the past year, and you're already seeing him be one of the best wings that we have. I mean, I like some of our other young guys. I like Chol, I like Wolf. I like them, but there's just something about him and the speed and his confidence that he has. Now, he's not perfect, but he's got the confidence to try things, and it's working. And that's just a little bit different than what we saw Aruju sometimes, where it was like players were they knew how to defend him. And Mosquera, there's gonna be tape on him eventually, but I think that he's just his speed adding on to it. It's definitely confusing some of these players on how to defend him.
He's a lot better than people give him credit for, and we haven't seen him in a while. Until up to a few weeks ago, he's kind of like the missing link or the missing piece. And of course, he was loaned. The whole loan situation didn't work out. But yeah, that's quite an indictment on Etienne, isn't it? I mean, Atlanta United gave him a TAMP contract based on a career year he had with in 2022 and hasn't panned out. But now here comes Saba. Here comes, and we'll talk about Xande a little bit too. Mixed in with that, here comes Xande, again, alone with an option to buy at end of season. Xande might be looking to get himself some minutes as well, to get those minutes that Etienne would otherwise get. And for whatever reason, it hasn't worked with Etienne. And we talked about it already. Maybe it's, I don't know if it's fitness, just like the weight of expectations. Maybe it's a late bloomer. I don't know, but unfortunately, he's not lived up to his contract as of yet. But now you have, again, Lobjanidze, you have Xande Silva, former Portuguese youth international, a little bit of Premier League experience in the reserves of the Premier League, mainly a little time in Greece, again, a little time in the Premier League, and now coming over from Ligue 2. Pretty good stat line from him, and I'd expect him, like I was saying, to really push to compete in that winger rotation. So that kind of is interesting times, again, as we already talked about, for Derek Etienne. Raisin Brant saying in the chat, is Saba more for barbecue wing or buffalo wing?
Buffalo wing, 100%.
Think so?
100%. Look, if I'm making barbecue, I'm not making wings. I'm making buffalo wings. He seems spicy.
Good choice.
I like it.
Good choice. But yeah, that's a story on Saba. We haven't talked too much about Xande. What are you guys feeling about Xande? I can't give my thoughts on it. I think it's a pretty solid signing. Not a splashy signing. Yes, Tommy and I kind of talked about yesterday, before it was officially announced. But yeah, nothing splashy. A name that kind of popped up that had him in originally connected to Atlanta United, but after a while, we started to say Xande Silva connected to Atlanta United, and Nico Moreno breaking that news. So credit to him. But yeah, Xande Silva, how are we feeling? Initial thoughts based on tape and what y'all have seen of him thus far. Not tape, but YouTube.
Yeah, I think,
like you guys are like seeing coaching tape or something like that.
Yeah, no. I think what you're getting out of Xande, I think obviously this all kind of ties together, right? You have a lot of wingers, and I saw it mentioned in the chat. You have a lot of winger options right now. You have options because this was never the be all end all transfer window by any means. They did this to give themselves space and capability to sign other guys and really make some big changes in the MLS offseason. So you've now set yourself up with essentially a trial winger, one who has had, I mean, if you look at his numbers, they're not exceptional, but he provides something. I think that, again, we're talking about Edwin Mosquera and his unpredictability. Edwin Mosquera is an unrefined product. Edwin Mosquera, I believe, given the right set of wingers ahead of him in the depth chart and the right coaching in a couple of years, could be somebody that Atlanta might want to keep long-term, or at minimum could actually make money on. He's not the guy right now, but he's the guy to come on in the 60th minute to run at tired legs. And that, I mean, that's half the battle because he does it well. Xande is, he's had the experience. He's not scoring goals left and right. He's had a handful, every season that he's played, and assists. But you're also not losing a ton by bringing him on loan until the end of the season. You have an option for the next season. If he comes in and kills it this season, cool. You have your answer. If he doesn't, you got what you needed, right? You're not losing out on trying to move Mosquera or whatever else you got to do on the wings with Wolf, Chop, everything else. You're giving yourself some space, giving yourself some room to work with. I think it's a good option. I mentioned it on the Twitter Spaces show the other night. You really want to start doing these kind of signings where it's, hey, come here, prove that you want to be here. Prove that you deserve to be here. Give us a reason to give you a longer contract or actually bring you over permanently. Because you got so many guys that are getting signed in crucial positions that are getting signed, on these longer term contracts for a lot of money. And they just don't do well enough to warrant the amount of money they're making or the contract they were brought over here on. So yeah, I think I look at it as a trial period, right? See how he does. And Alan saying Xande looks like he has some technical ability. All these four guys look like they can really run. They brought speed 100% with all four of these guys. We saw it with Muyumba the other night. Thiaré, quick. Xande, quick. Saba, way quicker than I ever would have pegged him for after watching his videos. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot going on here that's more than just like, oh, we signed this guy because he's a stopgap solution until the rest of the season. No, like, you're opening yourself up for other options down the road and setting yourself up so that, like, again, we're talking about Xande specifically. If he does come good in a way that they want to keep him, then cool. You have one of your options for next year. And I think that's great.
Exactly. You've been looking for depth at this position for a long time, and you just haven't found it. You've never had it. Here's an opportunity. Short window. It's good business. I mean, yeah, there's so many players that we sign and say, oh, let's see if it happens, but we sign them for 2 to 3 years and just say, really hope we get it together here quick. It's not, this is a true just quick test. If not, you're out. It's nice having someone else in the front office that is giving different ideas. I think we've all seen the same play over and over and over again. A little bit of overpay, or maybe we're not overpaying, but we're giving a really long length of a contract. It's nice.
Yeah, and no, that's true. I mean, it's a job audition, right? Very low risk. I don't know what the number is for Xande Silva. Very low risk. It's 10 games. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't think he'll have any issues finding another team or another role. somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, you guys said it both. It's 10 games
12
plus. Well,
at
hey.
least 12, I think.
Okay.
2 playoff games.
No, I was just gonna say. Playoffs included. But yeah, like I said, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And like I said, very low risk. Let's try it out and see. He's not going to be a starter, maybe. That being said, he can really light it up and maybe affect the starting 11. Who knows? But I think he's a depth player, a depth piece, someone that can come in 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, depending on how a match is going. And yeah, let's it's a flyer. Let's see how it works, and don't freak out too much if it doesn't. But yeah, that is Xande Silva.
Yeah, to piggyback on that too, we go back to the Rossi thing, right? And a lot of people are getting frustrated that, Atlanta didn't sign Rossi. Like, yeah, Rossi would have been really awesome to see in Atlanta. However, I'll throw this out there too. Had you brought in Diego Rossi, you wouldn't be seeing probably any of these, maybe one of these other guys, if that. Diego Rossi could have then come good or could have crapped out entirely. Yes, he's a proven guy. We know that. It's definitely a fairly safe bet. But now you've set yourself up to where you have lots of attack, lots of guys up front that can help attack. You have 3 that can play on the right wing, 2 that can play on the left, and 2 that can play as a backup striker. So you've got a lot of diversity at these positions now. So had you went with one who where he plays, and then he didn't come good or he got injured or whatever, then you're having a totally different conversation come the wintertime, because now you're stuck with him and all of that contract, which would have been much bigger than any of the 4 that you've got right now. So it definitely is a sense of the new regime. I think this is the fingerprint that you're going to see. And that's okay. That's okay, because if it develops results, but also gives you a little bit of a cushion to fall back on when things go bad, like 2020 Joseph Martinez, then we're not looking at, the crap show that has happened since then, because you're not relying on one thing. Now, yes, they still got a lot of work to do. Got to figure out Almada. Got to figure out the back line, Miles Robinson. Still got to get some midfielders to help out Muyamba. They're not done. The wintertime is going to be big. However, and the goalkeeper too. There's things to do, but this is a step in the right direction, and it's a very low cost and high potential reward.
Yeah, Rossi, by the way, $5.63 million the crew paid to bring him back, plus $1 million add-ons. That's the number being reported by Tom Bogert of The Athletic. So, yeah, not super expensive and not cheap either for Rossi. So, yeah, you're in a good spot. And I don't imagine I don't imagine Saba cost over nearly $6 million, over $6 million transfer fee. So that's Saba, that's Xande. Jamal Thiaré, who Tommy and I talked about in the video. You can watch that at your own leisure. But yeah, we talked about him, of course, coming over from Le Havre, helped them gain promotion. So Tommy, you and I talked about it a little bit, but just kind of, I'll just kind of give my thoughts on it real quick. Just kind of the summary of what we said, or what I said, and then you can kind of follow up probably with what you said, and then Tyler, give your thoughts. But another not splashy signing, it's a death piece. You needed that backup striker behind Giakoumakis with his health issues and with his hamstring, so it works. He's not here to score 10, 20 goals a year. But he's a plug and play kind of player he can put in. If Yako, for whatever reason, can't go, you can plug in Thiaré, hopefully get a better return on investment than what you're getting with Miguel Berry right now. I would imagine that Berry is not with the club in 2024. It's probably not a massive leap of logic right there. But, yeah, I feel like this is a very important signing for Atlanta United, and someone that can really take the mantle from Yako if he can't go. So it's kind of summarizing what I was saying the other day. But Tommy,
I completely agree. I think more low risk, and just trying to make sure that you have depth. Can you pull that picture up that we sent Sydney from earlier?
yes, I'm gonna pull that up, but
yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
I know we already talked about it, but just in general, just everything that we're talking about here in general, we've had no quality depth to come off the field, right? We just haven't had it. What did we talk about when everybody said why we keep starting Hosetu, or why are we starting Parada? Why are we doing this? Because you don't have depth. How come this guy's still playing? Because of they didn't show major, what was it, they weren't showing hard on the field. That was it, right? Well, the reason is because you didn't have the players to be able to throw out there, because you didn't have depth. We had one of the worst depth that we've had in years starting this season because of the salary issues. But you look at this picture, Tom Bogert posted it. There's a couple things that make me laugh on it, but you look at depth here, and you've got striker back. You got striker depth. You've got both wings. You've got depth. The midfield even. Miamba, Alonso. Hope those kidney stones clear up. I know those are terrible, but
trigger warning for you, Tommy.
The number 8 you got there. You have Sadich, Sosa, and Setu's the third string.
See, even Tom's putting him as a 6. I just don't agree with this. Anyway, carry on.
But you get the point though. Here is you're having this type of depth. You look. You moved on from Gutman, right? You still got backup. You still got depth there. So you've got guys to come in here. If someone's just not performing, you don't have to You don't have to stick at this position or stick the same guy in every single week. You have options now, and the biggest part here is you have quality options at wing now. And that's really what excites me about it. Quality options. Nothing against Tyler Wolf or Chol. I think that they're good options here, but you have options with experience. Yes, these guys are young and they're getting some experience, but you're 10 games left. You don't really have time to hope that some of these guys with less experience are scoring for you. You need to make the playoffs. Pineda needs to make the playoffs for his job. Now he's got those guys that could come in, and he's got some confidence saying, okay, I have a plan. I could play you for 60 and bring someone else in for 30, and I feel okay about it. Before that, I think he had to feel like, I got to play these guys for 75 to 80 and hope that I could get someone in for the last 10, and hopefully we're winning.
Yeah. And we'll tweet this picture out on our Twitter or X account, whatever it's called now.
Whatever.
But yeah. But no, that's exactly right. Experience. Lobjanidze, who has experience. Etienne has experience, but I don't know if you hear it in the background.
Is that your Alexa talking to you?
That is my Apple HomePod. I don't know why it came off, but
they do it at the worst times.
give me the weather forecast. But yeah, no, Tommy, you're right. Depth. Thiaré, you can put behind Giakoumakis, and Thiaré has proven consistent production. Lobjanidze, proven consistent production. Xande, same thing to some extent. Miamba, through one match looks really good. So, yeah, like you said, you don't have to plug in players that are kind of learning on the job. And nothing against Wolf, nothing against Troll, but they're learning on the job, essentially. So.
Right. Yeah, they've done good. Wolf has had a very, very productive year. You're proud of what he's able to do, and he's still an option for late in games. But he's not the first option, probably as much
right.
now, and that's okay. That's more than okay.
If you even go back to Pineda's comments as well, he's talked about he doesn't want them to be tried and true starters, right? Wolf is still growing. Wolf's still young. Machop's still young. They're both still growing as players. You really want them behind a guy or guys that in that quote unquote depth chart that they can learn from. And they continue to grow. They continue to move up, do their thing. And whether they stay with Atlanta or they make Atlanta a little bit of money, who knows? But the options are there. And that's okay. That's okay. Because at the end of the day, ultimately what's going to matter, as much as we hate to say it sometimes, is not fan favorites staying here. It's trophies and winning and obviously treating people right. I have to throw that in there after this summer window as well. But, it's okay for them to get their experience here in this kind of craziness and then move on. That's okay. So, but go really quick, going back to Jamal Thiaré. And then of course the graphic that you put up earlier, I think you give Pineda a crap ton of choices in this situation. He can literally throw in and mix around like 6 or 7 different players up top. And obviously, the newcomers, you really want to throw them in immediately, I think, because you have time to get them up to fitness. So you shouldn't have to worry too much about that. But you want to see what you've got. You have at minimum, you've got 10 games left. So see what you have. See what you really need going into this offseason. Let them play. Let them get minutes. Obviously, Almada is going to be starting. Giakoumakis is going to be starting. I think Jamal Thiaré comes in a lot in the 60, 70th minute and plays a pretty good amount of minutes this season. At times, I would not be surprised to see him and Yako as a dual striker system. Maybe like a 3-5-2, switch back to it, throw in another center back, put both of them up top, because you get speed up there where you don't have it. And then you have Giakoumakis, who is going to put the ball in the back of the net. So that's a pretty scary combo, I think, on paper. So, and then of course Silva can play really anywhere up there. So you can put him on either side. So for Pineda, like at least from your 8 forward, dude, that's like a coach's dream. You have so many options, and there's nothing like it may be what saves him his job defensively. I'll go back to what I said earlier. Is it solved? Not even kind of. However, I think it does help out. I think it helps out. Muyumba's going to make a big difference. Muyumba was doing everything he was supposed to do the other day. The goal was not on Muyumba, but he did offer a lot against a Cruz Azul side that, they genuinely create pretty good chances and didn't really create a ton of great ones in that match, except for the one that they scored on, which was really just a mistake on Atlanta's part. So I think you've got the blueprint, you've got just the pieces, and they're all coming together, and we can be optimistic because there's no reason to be pessimistic at this point until we see it and it doesn't work. Be excited about it, man. Like, you have guys that are coming in that have proven themselves. Jamal Thiaré, we haven't even talked about it. He was a Golden Boot winner in 2017, 2018. It wasn't a ton of goals, but it was enough to win the Golden Boot. So, like, these guys have been around Europe. Have they really been playing for a ton of first division teams? No. Who cares? Like, these are guys that can come in and totally fix, I don't want to say fix because not that there's anything wrong, but they can bring their career to a new level in MLS. They really could make a big difference and be staying here for a while. So it's exciting. It's exciting times.
So, letter grade for this transfer window, what would you give it? I would give it a B-, to be honest with you, because, maybe not B-, but probably a B, a solid B+, because you didn't get like any splashy players at all, but you got really key role players that can come in and depth. That's the big thing, depth. So I say B+ for me. What do you guys think? Letter grade.
B or B+. That's a big difference. My mom tells me this, when I would bring home grades. Because you started B-, then you went to B.
What do you mean when you bring home grades? Are you still in school? That's what you bring home grades. Okay.
You got to give it one. You said 3 different ones. I'm making you narrow this down. You got to give one.
Sorry. B+.
It was a wild ride all the way up to a B+.
Just like this season.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, what do you think?
Go ahead, Tyler. I need 30
You
more
need,
seconds
you need
to
a
think
minute
about
to
this.
evaluate your thoughts. No, that's fine.
I'm grading on
go-
a curve, so hold on.
Yeah, no, we got to figure out what curve we're on. I'm going to go with a straight B because the only thing I really would have liked them to see them do differently, but also it's all about who's available at the time. I would have liked to have seen this kind of quality, this, DNA style, whatever you want to call it, of a player, but in that defensive midfield role. That's the only thing I think I really would have. I kind of expected it in this one. I wasn't expecting the center backs. I wasn't expecting goalkeepers. Honestly, I kind of wasn't expecting the backup striker situation, but I'm glad they did because God knows they need it. That being said, I wish that they had hit on another, like a solid defensive midfielder, like a really good one. But you've got also, I think, more than we expected coming into this overall. Like, I think the net positive, the net gain is big, way bigger than I thought it was going to be if we were having this conversation 3 or 4 weeks ago, which we have. I'm excited about it. I think it's going in the right direction. But yeah, B, only because I would have liked to have seen somebody else there. My personal opinion is Sosa at this point. I love the guy to death, but he is the weak spot. And you just got to hope that it's good enough to get you by right now.
All right, I have a question for both of you. When you were taking your grades, did you account for Ibarra moving out? Or are you just counting the players brought in?
I did not. I also didn't count for Gutman.
Okay, so I will ignore that then, because that's what I was thinking about, because that's a huge piece of it. You lost one of your better players in Ibarra. Gutman, I understand what they were doing long-term with it, but if we're just looking at the players brought in, I'd give it an A-.
Okay. Rating on the curve.
Yeah, well, I didn't think you couldn't do everything in this window at all. I mean, you couldn't bring everybody in. You couldn't fix everything. They want to fix the offense. The offense has been slow lately. We haven't been scoring as much as we can. The wings haven't really been producing too much for us. They've had to change formation, so it's been a little bit crazy there. I think that they want to continue to be that high-scoring team that they started the season with, and hopefully the defense is being attacked as much. They want to be on the forefoot there, and I like what they've done. I think so. Now, if you counted the Ibarra move, then I'm definitely taking it down to a full letter grade to a B- for sure, because that's just something that just didn't need to happen. I know it did need to happen, but it was just a total disaster in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So seems like we're all in agreement. It's okay. But could have been a little better. So
I mean, I think it's good. I really do think
good.
It's good. Okay. I mean, I think the only guys getting an A in MLS this transfer window is going to be like Miami, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
A plus plus plus
yeah.
plus.
Columbus had a good one.
Yeah.
There's been a handful of others, but I think the only way you're getting an A is if you've fixed your team entirely, and that's not really going to happen unless you're Miami and you get to do what you want to.
Right.
But yeah, I think it was good. It was solid. If I were taking away points because of Ibarra and Gutman, I would have taken away like 2 just for the way they treated Ibarra, not because he didn't need to move or whatever. I just don't like the way they did it. That's my only issue, my only point of contention. But that's a different topic. So.
Okay. Cool. We are waiting on Michael Parkhurst. He'll be with us shortly, but let's talk real quick about the Women's World Cup. U.S. advancing to the knockout rounds rather unconvincingly. I mean, compared to 2019 at least. Beat Vietnam, beat the Netherlands, but ended up drawing against Portugal. And Portugal, I mean, great, I didn't watch because it was super early. Portugal hit a post in stoppage time that if it had gone in, and I think if the Brazil score, or not the Brazil score, but if the Netherlands score would have held, the United States, I believe, would have been out, which would have been catastrophic. But yeah, I mean, I didn't watch again, just very early, but they played on Sunday, I believe at 5 a.m. Eastern time. I'll have to double check. I got the date wrong.
I think it's 6 a.m.
6 a.m. Eastern. No, it's 5 a.m. 5 a.m. I was right.
It's 5?
I just looked it up. It's 5 a.m. Eastern time. That's the thing about
do I
this World
stay up
Cup.
later or get up earlier? That's the hard question.
No, that's the thing about this World Cup is it's halfway across the world, and the important matches are at 3 in the morning. So that's my only drawback. I haven't been able to watch that much of the group stage because of that reason.
Yeah.
I think it was like that too in 2019. I had a chance to go to a couple of group stage matches involving the U.S. And France. So that was a great trip. So I didn't get to watch a lot of the group stage when I was over there. But yeah, now it's do or die. If you win, you advance. If you lose, you are out. But yeah, kind of a gut check for you guys. What are you kind of thinking about the U.S.'s chances? Sweden is going to be a formidable opponent and one that is not unfamiliar to the United States. So I feel I'm not very optimistic. I feel like there are a lot of deficiencies in this team. Tommy, you kind of talked about the injuries coming in. Rose Lavelle is going to be missing. She is suspended through the yellow card accumulation.
And it wasn't even a yellow.
Ohio zone.
It wasn't even a yellow. It was a bad call there by the ref. Tim put Carly Lloyd has entered the chat. Carly Lloyd
that's a whole other topic. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
It's also, not though, because it really sums up the
I gotta give a shout out to Brian down in Medellin, Colombia. He's getting married, so congratulations.
Congrats, Brian.
Congrats.
Yeah. Carry on.
Yes.
No, I kind of felt the same way as Carly did after this game where they just look completely uninspired throughout it. They almost seem shocked that Portugal was attacking them so much, and I don't think they expected to be on the defense the entire I don't know, most of extra time or most stoppage time, and at quite a few points in the first half they were just getting attacked and they didn't know how to deal with it. And it seemed like there was a lot of hero ball going on. Everybody wanted to make the play, but they weren't working together. And you could tell the chemistry. If you've been watching this team prior and all the friendlies that they were having, the She Believes Cup and all that, they did not look. This team has not looked good, basically all year. The chemistry's not there, and I don't know. And Michael Parkhurst is coming on here, and how important is a captain to this team, right? And I'm not saying that they don't have a good captain here, but I think that there's somebody there that has to right now get them all in line and get them to focus on playing the right game, because they haven't had a good game yet. They have not. I know they won 4-0 against Vietnam, right? That was not a good game. They missed way too many opportunities there. The team has not looked good. They got to get it together. They got to get together quick. And I don't know. They just seem a little too overconfident. At least that's my feeling going into this tournament. Even just hearing some of the talk that they had going into it. My wife made a comment about that commercial that they have right now. Who is it? But it's like the USA just beat you. She's staring her down. I forget which one it is, but they're staring across each other in line when they're walking out to the field. It's like you just lost or something like that. I don't know. It feels like the whole team's just overly confident, and it's just they haven't shown it yet. This game here is going to tell a lot, and the coach for the USA is not going to be the coach if much longer. I mean, he's out. But people got upset about what Carly Lloyd said, but the one thing that she did say specific is she brought up that there was some locker room drama and some tactics and some coaching things in there. She did throw that line out there. So she obviously has to know something. that's going on there. And maybe there is something there with the coach and all that, but the coach definitely fought back from what Carl Lloyd said and said no, they're trying. It's just it's just not working out right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the inexperience is a big thing, right? But they just haven't looked cohesive, and it's hard, right? It's soccer. It's hard to come out as a team that just looks like a world beater in 3 World Cups in a row, right? Like it's just a tough thing to do. And I still think, honestly, I think this might have been the best thing that could have happened. You squeak by out of the group, and hopefully that's a wake up call, because that's what you're holding on to at this point. If this isn't a wake up call, then nothing's going to be. You're in the World Cup. If you don't handle business now, it's forever going to be looked back on as the moment that the U.S. women's national team kind of started to go downhill. Now they could fix it in the next 4 years. Absolutely. The coach gone, because it just hasn't looked convincing. So, this tournament unfortunately has also had a lot of upsets. I mean, if you go through the standings real quick, like, Group A, Switzerland, Norway, New Zealand, Philippines. I think that one turned out the way I think most people would guess. Switzerland and Norway are making it through. Group B, Australia, Nigeria making it through, but Canada not making it, and Ireland not making it. C, Japan just working everybody, and then Spain, and then Zambia and Costa Rica not making it out. England and Denmark in Group D, and then China and Haiti not making it out. And then, of course, Group E, where the U.S. is at, Netherlands, U.S. squeaks by, beat out Portugal, Vietnam. F, France and Jamaica. Jamaica's been like the really, really surprising
the
one.
darling of the tournament.
Yeah, it's just really cool to see. I mean, and shout out, because I forget their names. I'll never remember them. But I think there's 2 players that are from the Atlanta area, and at least one of them still in high school, if I'm not mistaken, that's playing in the World Cup for the women right now. So super cool, super cool moment. But in that same group, they beat out Brazil and Panama.
Yeah.
So that's wild. Sweden and South Africa beating out Italy and Argentina. And then now you've got Group H, which plays, I think, in a couple hours. So, all that being said, nothing is ever as it seems with a World Cup. And I know this team has a lot of youth, but if you don't go in and put your big, I was going to say big boy pants, but I guess that can't really be used in this situation. Your pants on and go in and like do the job, then you're going to be out in this first round of the knockout stages. You've got to come in and you've got to start swinging, and very quickly, because they just don't look exciting to watch right now. They look very inexperienced, obviously, but they look like there's no glue that's holding the group together. And you would have hoped with some of these other folks like Rapinoe and Rapinoe and some of the Alex Morgan, some of the, I guess, the veterans, you would have hoped that they could have held it together better. But that's never easy, considering the amount of like up and coming stars. Also, coaching decisions. Make some subs, man. Make some subs at some point. Like, why are you not using your subs? That's a pure coaching decision. You're going to run your people out like for 90 minutes and make, what was it, 1 sub or something? Like, that's wild. That's stupid. So lots of weird things going on in this one, but it's not that they can't fix it. Again, wake up call hopefully here, but we'll see.
Got
it's 2 games. I think they barely did any subs, right? Sydney, the game we watched together, there was only I think there was 1 or maybe none.
I believe so. That was like the main talking point, is why Vlatko Adnodowski didn't make any substitutions. And I think at the end, in the press conference afterwards, he said he felt good about the team he had out there, and things were flowing pretty well, which it could have just as easily come back to bite him, So, no, I agree. They don't look the team like the team they were in 2019 by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe they flip a switch on Sunday against Sweden, but yeah, I think anything short of a championship anything short of a title is a massive failure, considering the talent that is on the United States and the rest of the world seems to be catching up. So Brazil is obviously the big one, the big shocker, but now you have to hope that the United States isn't falling them out the door essentially. But yeah, I mean, all the marketing for Fox was around, oh, the U.S. versus the world. I forget what it was exactly, but yeah, now it looks like they are very close to, well, not very close, but now they, like you said, they don't look convincing yet. If they don't bring their best against Sweden, they're going to be out of the World Cup. Tyler, you mentioned the players that were from the Georgia area, the Atlanta area. Soleil Washington, Chamblee High School, junior at Chamblee High School. Oh no, I'm sorry. She was a junior. She's gonna be a senior at Chamblee High School. So shout out to her, representing Jamaica in the World Cup, which is incredible. So shout out to her. And then you said there's one other player, so I'll have to find out which one that is. But
Yeah, there's one other one. I
good
just
to
can't think of
see.
it.
Great to see.
Mhm.
So yeah, Sunday 5 a.m. Eastern time on Fox, U.S. versus Sweden, and we will see if the U.S. can advance out of the round of 16. Again, just hanging out, waiting on Michael Parkhurst to join us here shortly. I think he got held up, but we are waiting to bring him on in just a matter of moments. But while
bad
we
news
wait,
is you can't watch Miami and in Orlando right now because it's on rain delay. And however, the good news is they are showing Atlanta United versus Inter Miami. If you'd love to relive that, which none of us will. Ugh.
Yeah, I think we're done with that.
I think so.
Just erase it from the memory banks.
Well, then let's just ask you guys. So we got some time here. Predictions. Do you think the USA advances?
I'm not feeling very optimistic. I feel like it maybe a 1-0 Sweden or penalties, really. Yeah, I'm not feeling very optimistic about the United States getting by Sweden. Again, this isn't the walkover. This isn't just another team. This is a club. This is a team that is looking to take that next step. They've not won a World Cup ever. They've come kind of close, I think. They were finalists. Well, not finalists, but they were a third place team last World Cup in 2019. But yeah, I mean, they've been knocking on the door. And they are hoping that, this is the year that they finally take that next step and win. And then there are other big teams out there too. So, yeah, I'm not too optimistic about Sweden or United States beating Sweden. What do you think, Tommy?
I think they lose, unfortunately.
Outright?
No, Rose Lavelle is definitely going to hurt them. The depth that they've already lost before this tournament even started was just another kick to the gut. I don't feel good about this. If they come out and something changes, and all of a sudden they're the attacking team, I think we know that they can be, and you start seeing some more chemistry, then sure, I think that they can go anywhere if they win this game. But this one's huge, and Sophia Smith has been the best. I mean, Horan's been good, I think, and I think she's had a very good, 3 games. But Sophia Smith has been great. I like her, and she was the one that was in the commercial. I couldn't think of who it was, but I think you know what I'm talking about, the commercial, like where they're walking down the hallway, and I think it just says something like "you just lost" or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, so.
I don't know. My wife, when she saw the commercial, she goes, "Well, that's real cocky of the United States." I said, "Yeah, that's who we are, I guess." But if they would have got knocked out, man, that commercial would have been. They would have took that off every channel immediately.
Lived in infamy.
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm not confident to answer the question. I'm not confident that they make it out. I like to think they will. It's not one of those where I feel super negative about it, but definitely much less so than I did at the beginning of the tournament for sure. Again, I go back to what I said a minute ago. You just have to hope that they woke up and that the coaching staff figures it out and that the players, because I mean, there are a lot of players out there playing their hearts out for sure. Coaching staff, again, make some subs, man. Make some freaking subs. You have to at some point. You've really got to go in and like use because you have talent on that bench. It's not like you have a raggedy roster. Use it. But Sweden's a good team. Like Sweden is a really good team. So, I mean, let's see, where were they at? Top of their group. They won all 3 of theirs. So, and that's against South Africa, Italy, and Argentina. Not going to be a cakewalk by any means, but it's not. I think it. You also, they're the 2-time reigning champions. Like you can't just look at it as an even split. This is kind of apples and oranges and a little bit of to a degree. I don't think it's fair to not add in the fact that they're going into this game knowing what their stakes are. Forget who they're playing against. They know what they have to live up to. So, and that can do a lot. Then it's a matter of like, hey man, coaching staff, y'all got to sit down. Y'all got to give them the Ted Lasso talk and make sure they come into this one really ready to go. Because at this point, I mean, with the World Cup, with the Women's World Cup, any of these tournaments, it's every match. You could have your hardest match of the tournament right now. And then it could be easy from here on out. You never know how it's going to play out, but you have to play the opponent in front of you. And the one that they've got right now is really good. But again, you have the knowledge behind you that you have won a lot over the past 8 years. So 12 years. Just go play your game. Go, enjoy doing it, because you should, out of all the teams out there, you should be able to enjoy it, have fun, and have that translate to good results.
I just don't see it happening. I agree with Brian's comment here.
Mm.
The problems, can't be fixed in a week. These problems run deep, and this coach is not getting it done. I think that's kind of been the narrative here, and I don't know. I think if the way Fox sells it and how everybody was selling it, that maybe just don't watch this team closely. It was just like USA is going to win this. There was a lot of confidence in it. And if you watched them in the summer and in the spring, you just didn't walk out a lot of those games saying this team's a world beater. Literally the world beater. They're not that right now. They've really got to go deep now, and especially this game. If you can win this and you get Rose back, that's incredible for depth and moving forward, and depending on who advances and who you'll play. But that's a big if at this point.
Indeed. So other kind of other women's World Cup matches going on right now. Well, not right now, but coming up. Morocco, Colombia. That's at 6 a.m. As is South Korea, Germany, and Group H. So that wraps up Group H. So right now, Colombia is in good shape to advance. Germany, I think, need a win to advance. Well, I don't think they need a win to advance. They did need a win to advance. If they lose, depend on the Morocco match, see what they do. But yeah, Germany kind of on the ropes too. They need to win to advance, but then Morocco in that group as well, and then South Korea, I believe, eliminated. So that is Group H, and then again, knockout stages begin on Saturday, and the U.S. plays again Sunday at 5 a.m. against Sweden.
Yeah, it's been fun. The timing's been terrible But, just record it. That's what I did on Wednesday or whatever day it was. I woke up, or Tuesday, right? Tuesday. Yeah. I woke up when I just started watching it before work, and it was great. But you got to avoid spoilers. I think that's the hardest part. Like, my phone was on Do Not Disturb until I finished that game, because as soon as you open up, like, you get Bleacher Report, you get everything possible that's just going to keep giving you every way. You can't open Twitter, nothing. And then you open Twitter, and then you find out all the chaos. Then as soon as I opened up, when I open X, first thing I open up is Carly Lloyd's trending, and I'm like, oh no, what is going on?
X, Twitter, whatever it's called now. Identity crisis. X Spaces.
I feel like I'm an X-Men. Right. And maybe someone else. Like, I have a subscription to The Athletic, so I don't know, like, because they're both, like, the logo's very similar, just black background and the letter. Like, I constantly think that I'm getting, like, an Athletic, notification, but it ends up being Twitter every time. It's
Yeah, it's been throwing me off all day because my app finally did the update, and I'm like, what? And I got to look at it like 3 times. But it's funny because if you have an iPhone, right, you can put them in the little like groups, and the group still shows the Twitter logo, but the actual app shows the X. So it throws me off every time I click on it. I don't like it. I don't appreciate it. I don't like change. So,
yeah.
Again, in the meantime, because it's better than watching the freaking Atlanta United Miami game over and over again. Parky said it was gonna be coming in hot, essentially. But we do have a twos match that we got to talk about real quick. Not the last one so much, but I will use it as a plug to drop in my Nick Firmino article. If you guys haven't read that over at dirtysouthsoccer.com, go check that out. Got to sit down with Nick Firmino, who I know a lot of folks have been really excited about, and rightfully so. He is the one who played against New York City, came in the 87th minute and scored the game tying goal off of a Brooks Lennon cross. So, and then that was one of his 4 call-ups that he can receive in the year. And then the twos, they're getting their money's worth out of him. He's the leading goal scorer, 12 goals in the season. He scored a Thiago Almada banger the other day at the training ground when they had to move from Kennesaw State over to the training ground. So he is by far, if you've ever had an up and coming star in Atlanta United history, Miles Robinson would be one. Nick Firmino would definitely be another one for sure. So, but the twos are playing tomorrow at 7:00, playing up in Chicago. They've been kind of on a rough stretch recently, despite Firmino's best efforts. They've been scoring goals, but they've just been getting outscored. So it sounds a lot like the first team. But they've lost their past 3 to Crown Legacy, which is Charlotte's second team, Orlando, Huntsville, and then Columbus. So yeah, playing Chicago, and it'll be on Apple TV. It'll be on MLS, on the season pass. You have one of the twos players, Tyler Young. He tore an ACL the other day. So that's another one. We can chalk it up. Thankfully, knock on wood. It's not like it was last season with everything going on with ACLs and injuries and Achilles and everything else. But, obviously thoughts to him, prayers to him, because he's another one that's doing really well and getting lots of minutes, getting lots of time, I should say, not necessarily starting minutes, but, you never want to see that. Never want to see that for anybody, because he's out for at minimum, 8 months probably. So, and then of course we talked about him last week, but Matias Gallardo coming on, Chris Gloucester coming on. Those are the 2 signings that the twos made.
Yeah.
So, reasons to be excited, that we were talking with Jason Longshore up in the bins, me and Sydney were the other day. Gallardo is one of those guys that, he may not, he's 19. He may not have the skill to the degree that a team wants him right now. I'm curious to watch him play and see what he brings, but he grew up in a very, very, very prominent footballing family. So his IQ should be there. And if they can develop him into a number 10 that I'm not saying is the Almada replacement, but could be a solution as a backup if you need one for a couple of years, that's a good relationship to have, right? And the family is also a good relationship to have. The Gallardos, we all know. Marcelo's the big one. You know, Argentine national, played all over the place, played at DC for a little bit. Big name down there. So bringing that kind of pedigree up to Atlanta, is a good thing to have. And it should be a fun thing to watch. Fun and curious thing to watch, because the name kind of came out of nowhere.
What's his dad doing on February 24th, 2024?
I don't know. We'll find out. Depends on how the next 10 games go.
So I think that's my prediction of when MLS is starting back up.
Yeah.
Just a question.
Is there tinfoil
and a conspiracy
in that
theory?
I was talking to Jason, and Jason kind of feels that Gallardo's next move will be Europe or a bigger club. And I can see that. He stepped away from River, done all he could at River. But yeah, I would agree. Like, I feel like his sights are set on Europe, maybe the Premier League or something like that. So maybe if an MLS team that he really, really, really likes comes calling, I mean, maybe, who knows, Atlanta makes him an offer he can't refuse. But that's putting the cart before the horse. And I don't know. We shall see. We shall see.
Yeah, pull the horse. Pull it. It's a fun conspiracy theory to think about, though.
Yeah.
And I think it's things that you need to start thinking about it as these games come, they start back up. You start off hot, right? I mean, you got Seattle. Seattle got eliminated from Leagues Cup as well. You've got two very upset teams at this point that are going to want to, win a game that they haven't been able to play for a while. It's going to be very interesting to see how these two teams attack each other, and the schedule just in general is just wild, right? Like, you still have Cincinnati, I think, twice. I mean, that's going to be difficult. I mean, Pineda's really going to be earning it by making the playoffs. I mean, you're going on the road against Seattle, which I assume that might be our watch party. I think that could be a good one there. Then you're playing Nashville, who you not historically good at. Then, you stay at home against Cincinnati, go on the road against Dallas, play Inter Miami, come hang out with me. Then you go on the road against DC, back at home against Montreal, on the road against Philly, at home against Columbus, and then you finish it off on decision day going back to Cincinnati, which hopefully at that point Cincinnati has already won everything that they need to, and they are a little lax.
It's always Cincinnati on decision day. I don't get this.
I've been there for that.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a very tough schedule. But this is a perfect time, by the way. We'll do our quick plug. Patreon.com/scarves and spikes. Be able to hop on, do our watch alongs, which are enlightening and enjoyable. They're really fun. Hang out with us, grab your drink or not, or whatever you want to do. Just hang out and enjoy the time, talk soccer, talk whatever, watch the game with us. It's just a good time. And then of course we have other interviews that we don't do necessarily on our this live show, with other insiders from throughout the league, throughout the world. Just lots of other stuff on the way too. So there's our quick plug for the show, patreon.com/scarves and spikes. But
yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, Seattle, yes, probably that's a late one too. It's 10:30. So that'll probably be our watch along for that one. But this is not a cakewalk. This is not like, all right, they signed 4 players, so Pineda's job is saved or the season is saved or whatever. Like it's an uphill battle, 100%. I think maybe sometimes we look at it with a lot of doom and gloom because of where the team has kind of played themselves into over the past 2 months, and it's definitely a cause for concern. But they're not out of the race yet, but they're teetering on the edge of it. Seattle's not going to be easy. Unfortunately for us, they got knocked out as well from the League's Cup. So, you were kind of hoping they might make a run, and then by the time MLS comes back, they would be depleted and tired, and you could maybe scrounge one out on the road. But that's not necessarily going to happen. Nashville, never going to be easy. At least you got them at home. So, but again, never easy. That's a derby game if there is one for Atlanta right now, to me, in my opinion. So you got to hope that the fans show up really well, the supporter section shows up really well, is loud, they bring the energy like they need to. Everybody brings the energy like they need to. And then Cincinnati's not going to be easy because they are the Supporter Shield darlings right now. They're the ones that are going to be probably winning it all. Yeah. So you've got tough steps ahead of you, and it'll be curious to see really what these new signings are made of, with 3 of generally the better teams in the league right now coming back off at this break.
Yep. No, absolutely. And it's not a cakewalk like we've been saying. So I hope fans wouldn't make their initial judgments based on one match. I want to say give the players time to gel. But then again, those 10 matches are going to go quickly. So, they're going to need to gel quickly. They're going to need to gel fast and learn each other fast and build that chemistry fast. Because if they don't, Atlanta United runs the risk of they're still in the playoffs, but they're 6 points out of. They're 6 points ahead of Montreal. I mean, at the same time, a home playoff spot is still achievable. They're only 5 points back of Philly. Granted, they have played one more match than Philly. So that's still on the table. If you want to achieve that, you can't waste any time. You got to come out with your hair on fire. You got to come out immediately ready to go. There's very little margin for error because you run the risk of putting yourself in the play-in game, essentially the 8-9 game, if you aren't careful. Because Chicago's coming in hot, and DC's, maybe they may be a little inconsistent, but they are hoping to put things together and maybe string together a few results coming out of the break. So. Yeah, I mean, you run the risk of, putting yourself behind the 8 ball if you aren't careful. So, they're going to need to really come together quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's been something that we talk about in the Twitter spaces all the time, and people freak out about, because I think Pineda's talked a lot about, the player has to get acclimated with the team. He's got to get up to, full training. You don't have that. I get that they did that for Etienne when he came back. He had off-season surgery, and, it took him a little bit to really get back up to full strength, and he had other players playing well. You don't have that. You got to hope that these visas come in quick. I mean, that's one thing. It seems like they are going faster than what they have been. So that's good. But you're just training right now. You're training for 3 weeks. You've got to make the most of it, and you have to get. Maybe they don't all start, and maybe they come in late for that Seattle game for their first one. But you can't use that as an excuse. I mean, Mamba came in pretty much immediately, right? I know he didn't play in the Miami game, but he got the visa 2 days before or 3 days before, so that's why. But you definitely need to get in. You got to get these guys in quick, and Pineda knows that for sure.
Yeah, agreed. And we'll definitely talk about that, of course, as time progresses, because before you know it, August 20th, we'll be here. Um, and LA United will be back on the pitch against the Seattle Sounders. So, as promised, we have our very special guest for the evening. No introduction needed. Mr. Michael Parkhurst. Michael, thanks for coming on.
Gents, my apologies for my tardiness tonight.
It's okay.
No worries.
Busy man.
How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are y'all doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
A busy few days, I'm sure, for you all, trying to cover Atlanta United.
Just a little busy.
Just watching YouTube clips after YouTube clips, or what?
Right.
Scouting them out, man.
Yeah, scouting them out. But yeah, Mike, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate your time. I know there's a lot of excitement by our viewers and listeners knowing that you'd be coming on. So yeah, thanks for stopping by for just a little bit. Before we get any further, let us know what you're up to. What's going on in your world these days? What's keeping you busy?
A few things. Still got Beyond Goals mentoring going with Greg, and that's been a blast. We've got a broader partnership with Atlanta United Academy this year, thanks to Truist. And so we're excited to work more with their athletes and teams and parents. So that'll be awesome. And then still helping out Rippleworks, a tech company. And then I got the USL franchise up in Rhode Island getting going next year. So just helping Kano, our head coach, put together the team there and figure things out so we can hopefully win some games next year.
So first of all, and I got to give, because this is different than the last time we spoke. The last time I gotta give you a shout out because you were our first guest on the Twitter Spaces show that we did last year. That's actually kind of how this got started. And
nice.
So I appreciate it, by the way. So yeah, I wanted to talk like just really quick, like Rhode Island, and then obviously this Atlanta podcast, kind of like more detailed about what are y'all doing on top of what you were already doing with Beyond Goals, and then just Rhode Island, like you got a whole bunch of fans that are ready to just add on Rhode Island, I think, to their their group of scarves and everything in the back. So like what's going on with it?
Yeah, I'll start with Rhode Island. Yeah, since we last talked, obviously hired Kano Smith as our GM and head coach. We got him from Birmingham. I actually played with Kano up in New England. When I started off my career, we were rookies together. And yeah, he's a great dude and a good person, well respected. So we feel really, really good about having him at the Realm. Got the stadium being built up there, but just headache after headache trying to get a stadium built right now, or anything built right these days, but and trying to get financing for it as well. So unfortunately, won't be ready for next year. So we'll be at a temporary facility at a college which is not unfamiliar territory for any new franchise, really, including Atlanta United. So we got that, and then we'll be in the stadium year 2. So yeah, we are putting together the team now. Haven't signed a first player yet, but are out scouting and hitting the free agency market within USL for sure, and scouting MLS Next Pro teams and academies and all that. So yeah, that's exciting. And then yeah, Greg and I with Atlanta United's Academy, we'll be speaking more to the teams in the beginning of the season. We'll be trying to work more with individuals throughout their academy, whether it be some of their top prospects or guys that are just going through things that need somebody to talk to, or coming back from injury, or just want to have a chat with us. We're just trying to help them out in the mental space more, and prepare them for, the challenges that are ahead. Whether some guys have never dealt with confidence bouts, some guys are going through some now, some guys are asked to play in different positions. Still a lot of players haven't played against older players yet, and what that entails, or going into a new locker room, or training with the twos, or training with the first team. Just things to think about, so that, try and help set them up for success.
So
That's to be fulfilling, like just getting a call and talking to someone young, and I know you just started this, but in 5-10 years you're going to see some of these guys going far, and that's going to have to be just make you feel great about it.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, Noah Cobb was one of the first guys. That was even before I started Beyond Goals. Just having conversations with him and Tony Annan before he left helped set that up. And, he's obviously done really well, and he's an awesome kid. And, I think that we were excited to do that. And I think that was kind of on the heels of one of the reasons why we started it was just because of our experience with the first batch of homegrowns. And both a combination of wishing we had maybe done more to help them and wishing that maybe they had more insight into what it was going to take to be good pros and earn a second contract.
So I want to kind of have you put your defender hat on, I guess, and kind of ask you a question about Atlanta United itself. And we've kind of seen some of the issues pop up. Late goals given up, mistakes being made in the back. We talk about the Cruz Azul match. Gonzalo Pineda saying literally it was a mistake. I guess two guys went for the same ball, and attacker left wide open on the left hand side. Brad really has no chance to make the save. And these issues that kind of pop up for Atlanta United, really match after match. What is that missing piece for them defensively, from what you've seen, that has caused them to become one of the teams in the league that has given up the most goals, has caused them to concede so many goals, and not just so many goals, but at late stages of the matches? Like, what is kind of your vantage point on that, and how does that get fixed, I guess?
Yeah. I think it's twofold for me. One is like the way that we used to play with Atlanta United during my years was we wanted to outscore teams, right? It was like, we're cool winning a game 5-3 if that's what it takes to get 3 points. Like we'll just win 5-3 or win 5-2, right? And so some of that took pressure off us in the back, because you knew, like, okay, one little mistake, right, that could possibly lead to a goal. If the mistake does happen, and if it does lead to a goal, right, and those are two big ifs, then it's okay, because we're probably going to score multiple goals in this whatever said game it is, right? And so, I think when we're not in games, and I know we've scored a decent amount of goals this year as a team, right? But it's kind of been in clumps. And when that's not occurring, it's a little bit more pressure on the back line. But also, to be honest, it's just individually just seems like it hasn't been good enough, right? And I think that especially when Miles isn't in, the partnership hasn't been great between the Peralta and God, I'm blanking on the Chilean's name.
Abram.
Yeah.
I think Abram, for whatever reason, I haven't been impressed with him at all on the defensive side of the ball. And I know it's difficult when you go into a new country and you don't play right away, and you expect, I think, to play right away, and you're on the bench for a long time. Like, that's difficult. And then you get a couple chances and you get subbed into games. Like, I remember him subbing in against Nashville away, and I don't know how many minutes he played in the second half, but he was brutal. And that's tough. It's tough to get subbed in as a center back. It's a tough ask, and so I felt for him. But as an international, you also Peruvian, sorry. But as an international, you also expect a little bit more, right? And it's like, I think that there's been times where it's like, man, even in a 3-back, and obviously I'm not privy to what's going on in training, or how much they're training the 3-back system or the 5-back, whatever you want to call it. But it's just like, I see some things where I'm like, this can't happen. Where guys are running in between little spaces and they're not getting covered, and two guys going for one, that type of stuff. So yeah, it's, I don't know, it's a lack of ownership on the defensive side of the ball, like, and at times they're just getting left out to dry a little bit sometimes by the midfield in front of them.
Yeah, and it drives Brad absolutely nuts, right? When it happens, I mean, we see it all the time.
Yeah.
You hear Brad screaming, I'm sure, like to this day. I can only imagine because, I mean, it's funny because you look at it from the top-down perspective, right? And you can see what's going on, but that's not always easily translatable to being on the pitch, right? But can you put your finger on something specifically? Because I've been shouting like from the rooftops on this show, the midfield needs help. The midfield like just doesn't pick up late runners. They don't seem to be doing the effort required of what is trying to be done as a cohesive unit. But I mean, am I off base? Like, what as a guy that did it all, like, what do you see that just it needs to be fixed?
Yeah, and I think that sometimes it's challenging, right? The way that Atlanta United plays, for the most part, even still today, it's still spread out, right? They're pressing a lot, and when you press at the bends, it's not only tiring because the field's big, but if it's not done well, like, teams can play out of it. Like, teams are good these days. They can play out of presses. They're prepared for the press, and the ball is so fast on that turf that, like, if the press isn't good, teams can play out of it. And that's no knock to the press, because even when we pressed in 17, 18, 19, like, teams were playing out of it sometimes, right? It was a disaster sometimes. But we also had, myself and Jeff to organize things when things broke down, or, to help out and step into the midfield as a back three or as a number 6. Like, Jeff, like, covered so much ground, obviously, but also had the experience to read situations and foul guys and, all of that. So, some of it is that, and I don't think that, listen, we don't have a number 6 like Jeff. I know that Franco was playing well before he was traded. But even he, doesn't cover quite the ground that Jeff did. And I know that Ozzy was brought in to be that player, and obviously had the injury, and probably wasn't going to be quite that player just because of his age. So that's a big part of it. But when you ask the team to go press and you be spread out like that, it's gonna leave gaps. And, the back line then has to make plays, and they have to be organized enough and take ownership to who's going to make the play and who's going to step up and who's going to do this and who's going to do that. Some of that takes time. It takes cohesiveness. It takes the same group playing together. It takes playing the same formation over and over. And it takes training it. We didn't even train that a lot with Atlanta United and until the playoffs leading up to MLS Cup in 2018. And then that's why in the playoffs, our defense was so much better.
So really quick, I just got to ask, because I think that probably would shock some people to hear you say that, because a lot of times, like I'm at the training ground and we ask, Pineda, but you can ask probably, I think, any coach. And from the outside looking in, you would think they just need time. They just need to go to the training ground and hash it out and figure out what needs to be done. But like, it also feels like, and I've kind of felt this way for a little bit, but then maybe you reinforce it. If you've got the footballers that have that IQ, that know what the game plan is, and it's a clear cut, obvious game plan, a back line, not just that position, but a back line should be able to know their position well enough and know their team well enough to essentially operate as one unit, not as 3 individuals or 2, whatever. Right. Like, I think that's worth maybe going a little bit more detail, because I think a lot of people just assume like, oh, this back line's been, Miles was hurt. Miles is out. Abram's coming in. He didn't play for the first part of the season. He's coming into a new country. Parada's the only one back there, but he's still on loan. Obviously, all those are factors, right? But should they be able to operate better than the sum of their parts right now?
Totally. For sure. I mean, I think that we'd all expect that, no doubt. I mean, this is not like a bunch of rookies on the back line, right? I mean, the three center backs are very well experienced. So there's that. Brooks is very well experienced, right? So, Caleb, when he's playing, is the least experienced, but he's not even playing a lot of left back these days. But I will say that a back four is a lot easier if you don't train a lot of defensive side of the ball. A back four is much easier because you've got your two center backs playing against a striker, and you've got your outside backs. They know that they're covering the wingers, right? It's like done and dusted. But then in a back five, the wing backs don't know sometimes, do I go to the outside back of the other team or do I cover the winger, right? And is the outside center back covering the winger, right? Or are they covering the striker? And that's why sometimes you get pinned back in a back five covering their front three. And that's how you get pinned back. And this happened with us when I was there, right? So it's never perfect. And the rotation has to be perfect of like when to release the wing back to go to their outside back, and the center back can slide out, right? And that's a lot of communication. When did one of the center backs step into the midfield to cover a guy because you might be outnumbered in the middle there, right? Those are little things that take a lot of communication and some experience and some ownership, honestly.
I'm curious. It's been Groundhog Day for this team for a while. Individual mistakes. I mean, it's been for basically since Pineda has come on, and it's not getting better. Does eventually that come on the coach?
I mean, it will. Whether it should or it shouldn't, It will. I think that anytime a team is not playing well, it's going to go back onto the coach, whether that's fair or not. And I will say that, Pineda's tried different things. He's tried different lineups. He's tried different formations. Has it all been perfect? Of course not. But I don't know. I really like Gonzalo as a person. I think he's an amazing human being, and I really like him. So, I hope that they figure things out, because I'd love to see him be there for a long time and have success with Atlanta. But that being said, like it's got to change soon. Like the team has spent too much money. The rosters, it's had some faults. There's no doubt, obviously, but it's still good enough to be not just a playoff team, but like have an actual chance of winning it, or at least going for a deep run. And it doesn't feel like we're there right now.
Yeah, and like they just keep. Whenever you have a coach in any sport, and after every press conference, after every game, they're repeating the same things. Like, we just have to stop making these individual mistakes. Your credibility starts going down when it's because it's not getting fixed every single week. And that's basically been almost every loss over the past few weeks. It's just one or two bad individual mistakes.
Yeah. And the other way to look at it is like some of these games we are playing well. Right, which is great, right? We're creating chances and looking pretty good offensively, and for the most part, doing the stuff defensively, right? And so that's what gives you the hope, and that's what's like, hey, if we can just do this little thing or that little thing, and it gets on the players too, right? Obviously, they feel for it too, and I'm sure a large majority, if not all, of the locker room respect and like Gonzalo and don't want him to get fired, and so they feel it on themselves too, right? And then I think the pressure mounts, right? And then you're like, I remember there were times in my career, especially like 2016 with the Crew. 2015 we lost an MLS Cup. 2016 we brought back basically the same team, if not even got a little bit better, and we could not win games. We just couldn't do it. We would dominate teams and lose, or play okay, and we just all year long, it was the same thing. And the pressure mounts of like, God, it just seemed like every mistake you made as a defender, the other team was scoring, right? And it was like, and when things are going well, you can make 4 mistakes and they won't score a single goal, or Brad will play off, make every save possible, or they'll just miss the goal or hit the post, right? But it just seems when you're in that funk, those just doesn't happen. It's like that one mistake or the one thing, and it's like they're burying it. And I don't know why. It just feels like that's the way it's going right now. I feel for the guys sometimes.
Yeah. And sort of the messaging that we heard after the Cruz Azul match, Amar Sadech saying, that's football. I mean, that's a match where, kind of like what you were saying, Atlanta United looked a better team in the second half. Just that one mistake they made in the first half. I mentioned it earlier, where Cruz Azul goes up 1-0, attacker unmarked. Second half, they, of course, level the match, losing penalties, but frustrating things like that are what we're seeing from this team. When we look back and say, okay, if they hadn't given up that one goal, or if they hadn't broken down at that crucial moment, this would have been a much different result. And looking back at the end of the season, they're going to be kicking themselves, because how many matches could have been 3 points instead of 1, or 1 point instead of 0, if they just had held out for another 5 minutes. So, no, absolutely.
Yeah, and this isn't a conversation privy to Atlanta United, right? I mean, I'm up here in Columbus, and the Crew last year couldn't hold on to a lead in the 90th minute if their life depended on it. And they were a pretty good team as well, that just literally gave up a ton of goals in the 90th minute. So it happens to good teams sometimes, and it's not always the 90th minute, but and that's when like winning just covers things, right? It's like you win that game 2-1, or you even win in penalties, and it's like, all right, you kind of look past that one goal or that one mistake, and it's like, it's not that big a deal, right? But because we lost in penalties, and because we didn't advance, right, then it's like amplified, and that's just what losing and drawing games, especially at home, that's what it does.
Yeah, for sure. So, I know you're in the midst of building a team yourself, so you've had a little bit of a look behind the curtain from an administrative standpoint, player acquisition standpoint, and I want to kind of get your thoughts about how that applies to MLS as a whole. Of course, Inter Miami signed a pretty good player a few weeks ago, or several pretty good players a few weeks ago. But a lot of the conversation, in all seriousness, a lot of the conversation is, okay, now that Messi's in the league, MLS really needs to buckle down and take a close look at the roster roles and roster composition as it stands right now. And I think that becomes even more evident with Leagues Cup, MLS trying to get on par with Liga MX, trying to become competitive with them. So, from your vantage point, where do you see things from a roster building standpoint, especially with the World Cup coming in here, 2026, Copa America, the Club World Cup especially going to the U.S. in the next couple of years? How can MLS get to a point where their roster building mechanisms, their team building mechanisms can get them kind of on par with some of the other big leagues around the world, if not on par with Liga MX?
Yeah, and it's a great point, and it's one of the biggest reasons I think that a majority of the league was so excited to see, not only because he's the best player in the world, right, and to play against him, and obviously it's going to bring in a ton of new fans and revenue for sure. But when you look back, one of the best things that Beckham did to this league was change some of the rules. Obviously, he didn't do it, but his presence did it. And so if Messi's presence changes some of these rules, or gets the ownership or the league to change some of these rules faster than they would have, like, it's such a win for everybody. Like, I don't care if Miami signs half of Barcelona. If in order for them to do it, the league has to change the rules for everybody, then it's good for everybody. It is. And I think that, it's a bit of a joke that when like somebody like myself, who played in the league for 10 years, as part of MLSPA, can't easily understand all the rules and explain to other people what the rules are, then it's just too complicated. And so they need to get away with all the TAM, GAM buckets and just, obviously raise the salary cap, allow more freedom to teams that want to go after it and actually put together a solid roster, not just a top 15 guys, right? Which a lot of teams do and are kind of handicapped to do. But like when you look at Tigres, like I'm pretty sure Lucas Zelarayan was a role player for Tigres, I think, or a Mexican team, and he's so good, and we need to get to that level too, where we've got guys on the bench, and not just Atlanta, but throughout the league that are like good enough to start on every team in the league, if not, in other leagues. And we can't get there right now, just based off of the salary restrictions. And until that happens, I know that we've won Champions League now with Seattle, but to consistently compete with some of the top Mexican teams, I think that we're going to need to do that. And we want to do that. And I think there's owners, the newer owners want to do that. It's just that there's a few older owners who are holding the league back still because, they've got more clout. They've lost the most money in this league and kept it afloat in some hard times. And so obviously we're appreciative of that, but they also need to realize that the league wants to take off and they're kind of holding it back right now. And so I think they will change it this year. I think they need to, especially with the World Cup coming, only one full two full seasons, before that World Cup. So, all eyes will be on American soccer. And so now's the time for sure.
Yeah. And once you get towards, the schedule congestion, it gets sloppy. Right? Like you don't have a lot of great players that you could put in. You see a lot of twos players in there and it's great, but with more eyes on the league, and especially, if Miami's playing a midweek game here and everybody's watching Messi and they're, a team's resting a bunch of their players, they're not putting a lot of quality guys out there.
Yeah.
That's when you get all these videos, which you already saw when Miami destroyed Atlanta United. MLS is trash. This is where we're at. Like you could tell how bad this league is. You've got to get, the world is watching right now, like you said, and you've got to just get better quality here.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, they have to. And I think they understand that. I think they know that. And, and like I said, that'll be the best thing. It's funny. We've worked so hard as a players association to fight for some rules. And then, Beckham comes in and we get DPs and COVID hits and all of a sudden we've got charter flights and hopefully now Messi comes in and it's like, these are things we fought for years, never got anything. And it's like, oh, Beckham gets this. Oh, okay. Because of COVID. Okay. Oh, all of a sudden we can fly charters all the time. Okay, cool. Right. And it's like, yeah, fine. If Messi coming in is going to tilt the board a little bit towards Miami, don't care, as long as all these changes come in for everybody and help out everybody in the long run.
And it should too, right? Because MLS, I think the argument is always, well, we want parity. We want things to be close. We don't want it to be a, Man City type, Premier League or Barcelona, Real Madrid type La Liga.
Yeah.
But if you don't allow things to open up, I think to a degree, then you're kind of going backwards. Actually, I think you're really, like, yeah, it may look good for Miami the first couple of years. It's fine. You have Messi. You have the best player in the world. But if you're not then allowing the teams that Messi's playing against to fight back, in a sense, then the worldwide audience that you're gaining isn't going to stick around. They're not going to want to see a subpar product by the time Messi leaves in a couple of years. So I think that's the other, I think my only counter argument is, you've got to open it up at some point. And if there's a time to strike while the iron's hot, this is it.
Totally. And, nobody wants this to turn into the Scottish League, right? Where you've got two giants and the rest
Yeah.
of them are just like trash.
Yeah, for sure.
No offense to the other Scottish teams,
It's true, though.
but or even the Bundesliga in the past few years has gotten better, but you know what I'm saying, right? We don't want the top heavy and the bottom where it's like you've got the team that's never going to be in the top half or things like that, and that's where you can put a floor in for spending, right? And or something where it's like keep a gap. And I'm not saying get rid of and I don't think it ever will get rid of a salary cap completely, but just having a more flexibility within the salary cap.
So I kind of wanted to, well, actually, let me ask you this first. With your new venture with Rhode Island, are you having to deal with any of the same kind of stuff, or are they fairly free with your ability to go out and get players?
Yeah, pretty free.
Really?
Yeah, pretty free, which is nice. There's there's, a capped number of foreigners, but there's no cap or anything. There's no buckets of money or anything. And, we're free to go get any MLS player, USL player, foreign player. So that part makes it a lot easier when you're trying to plan and, have an idea of where you want to spend your money and how you want to spend it.
And it's going to be in League One?
The USL Championship.
It is going to be Championship. Okay.
Yeah.
So just really quickly, how has the conversation, because you're still in the development of this team, and now they're talking about adding promotion and relegation. What has kind of been y'all's thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's exciting. I think that it's still a little bit a ways away. I think this vote that's occurring soon is just to vote on if it's still worth exploring even deeper. Meaning if they do the exploring and find out that it's good and it's great, are we going to have enough votes to even pass it? Otherwise, we're not going to spend the money to explore it further. So I'd envision that they'll get the votes and that they'll explore this further with the hopes of implementing it before the World Cup at some point. I think that that's one of the benefits of not having and the fees for USL Championship are moving up for sure, right? But it's not going to happen within MLS where you've got a franchise fee of $500 million and you could get relegated after 1 year and go down and play USL Championship teams, right? It's unrealistic. So USL's got the best chance of implementing a system like that, especially if they grow the championship currently to 30 teams and then split that into 2 or something like that. Right. Because some of the League One teams probably aren't at the place where they could get promoted and, sustain that. So, I think that's what they'd have to try and do.
Yeah, I think if that goes through, I think you'll get a lot more eyes on the USL. And maybe, right now they're with ESPN Plus, I believe. I could be wrong, but maybe more opportunities with television and media attention on the league. So, yeah, we'll have to see what comes of that. Real quick, and going to try to wind it down in just a little bit. We can't let you go without talking about the Women's World Cup. I mean, you have a daughter, I'm sure, is very into it, I'm sure. But group stage is over. Knockout stage is coming out on Saturday against Sweden, a very formidable opponent. Have you had a chance to watch a lot of it yourself, and what have been your impressions of what you've seen thus far? And what are the U.S.'s chances of making it maybe to a third straight title?
Yeah, I watched the first 2 games. I did not wake up at 3 a.m. for this past game.
Can't say I blame you.
Yeah, me neither.
But, I think that I get some of the chatter that I'm seeing and hearing about their play. It hasn't been clear. Obviously, the first game is a far inferior opponent. It's too easy. Obviously they should have scored probably 8 goals. And they didn't. They just weren't sharp enough in front of the goal. And that happens sometimes. You get it. But I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous going into this last game, and I know that the women caught some heat for after the Portugal game, kind of celebrating a little bit or dancing a little bit. And for me, my take on that is I have no problem with it. It's tough to advance out of the group stage in the World Cup. It's obviously their goal is to win the championship because that's their level. But step one of that is to get out of the group, and they got out of the group. And was it perfect? Nope. Does it make their road probably a little bit harder? Yeah. But if they're the best team in the world, then it doesn't matter. And like some of their stuff about like, their swag and their style and they're taking the pictures before the game and stuff, I have no problem with that, right? As long as like when it's time to show up and play, that they are the typical U.S. women's team that has got not only the swagger, but like that killer mentality of like, we are going to destroy you. We're going to score goals and we're going to bury you. And so obviously we didn't see that against Portugal from, what I've caught up on afterwards. So that, and in a kind of a big game, all right. If that ball hits off the post and goes in, right, they're out. I do expect that they'll rebound. I think that they know that they haven't played their best, and right, you get out of the group stage not having played your best, right? I look at that as maybe I'm just a positive person, right? But I kind of look at the bright side, right? You haven't played your best yet, and you're going to the group stage. Not having Rose Lavelle hurts. She's a baller. I think, Alex Morgan needs to step up. She needs to be a leader on this team that she is, and they need to be able to rely on her to, not only hold up the balls, but she needs to score. And so that's got to happen if we're going to have success, we're going to win. I do think that they'll have a good performance against Sweden. I feel good about it. I am going to wake up at 5 and watch that game. It's a big one. So I'm excited for it.
And then just super quick, Republic of Ireland make it to the World Cup for the first time. So I'm sure you're happy to see that as well.
Totally. Absolutely. Love a good Irish presentation there at the World Cup. And honestly, it's been an exciting World Cup. There's been a lot of upsets, and seeing Jamaica get through yesterday was awesome. The Panama goal against France. It's just like, some of these CONCACAF teams doing well. It's awesome. And
Brazil
some of these
getting knocked out.
Sorry?
Brazil getting knocked out.
Yeah, Brazil getting knocked out, and and even Norway had a tough time. And who else got knocked out? Somebody else big got knocked out.
Oh, we were just talking about it earlier, and I just had it pulled up. Come on, y'all help me out. Dadgummit. It's gonna
I'm
drive
looking
me.
it up.
I wake up for the U.S. only.
Canada. Canada was a
Canada, yeah,
that was a big one.
A big team,
and
so. It's been a fun World Cup for sure. It's been exciting. And so, obviously anything can happen here, but I haven't lost faith. Am I more nervous than I would be if they went 3-0 in the group? Of course. But, Holland's no joke. At least they turned it around and took it to them in the second half. So that was good. And hopefully they'll bring out that killer instinct here against Sweden.
All right. So, just a couple of quick things to wrap it up, because I know you're super busy, want to be, responsible with your time and everything for sure. You said you're up in Columbus right now, right? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
I never know, man. Rhode Island, Atlanta. You come back down to Atlanta anytime soon?
I had Julian over for dinner last week. He's
as
well.
And then he went out and had a killer game.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, as expected.
So I guess that ties into this question, because everybody's always asking it. How much money do we need to pay you to come back to help out?
Tell you what, I could not help out the defense right now. I guess maybe as a coach I could, but not as a player. But coaching's not in my near-term future. That's for sure. It's too demanding. Too much time away from the family. not what I'm looking to do right now.
Totally understand. So then I just got to ask, because I obviously see you on Soccer Down Here, Jason's show. John's doing everything with it. And it may have been asked on there. I don't get to watch them all the time, especially now that we're doing this. The ball that you have behind you, what's the significance?
So this ball is Olympics.
Okay.
So that's 2008 Olympics. And then the other ball is first professional game with New England, signed by the guys.
Nice.
Okay.
Yes.
Always wondered. It's always been bugging me. It wouldn't make sense to ask you on like Twitter Spaces because nobody can see it, but I had to ask now.
Yeah, and then the field behind me is a teammate of mine at Wake Forest. That's a picture of Spry Stadium at Wake Forest, and then kind of a quote here on the side that he made it. And it's like saying like the real education we got was right here on the field.
That's awesome.
Like that. So it's a cool picture.
How often? Yeah, just real quick. How often do you get back down to Winston-Salem in the Carolinas? Pretty often, or?
Definitely once a year. Try and get down twice a year, but definitely get down in the fall to see a game. If not for homecoming, then catch a game at some point. They always have a good team, and I'm very close with Bobby Muse, the head coach down there. So at least once a season.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, nice area down there. As a former Charlotte resident, can speak to the beauty of the Carolinas. And then Coach B saying, "Parkhurst, please sign my jersey." So I don't know who that is. Friend of yours or?
Nope, big fan down here.
Oh, just a big fan. Here in the chat.
I don't know. No, I don't think any meet and greets really on the docket right now. I'll be down in a few weeks to do some stuff with the academy, and then nice. I always do the Thanksgiving camps down in Atlanta.
Yeah,
with, Kevin Kratz and Mike Ambrose and Greg Garza, Alec Can. So we do those Thanksgiving camps. So that might be a good opportunity as well.
Yeah,
Parky, up north, I'm a couple hours above you in Cleveland.
Oh yeah,
they've got a USL and NWSL team. They're working on here too.
Yes, I did see that. That's awesome.
Yeah, they're trying to grow it in Ohio.
Yeah, soccer is spreading like wildfire.
Crazy. But, two of the newest and best stadiums in MLS are both in Ohio, or two of them are in Ohio.
Yeah,
they're both beautiful.
No, yeah, they are. They are beautiful grounds. But it is spreading, and 2026 will be here before you know it. Mike, really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. Open invite. You're welcome back anytime. But appreciate your insight. Appreciate your time, and we will talk to you soon.
Sounds good, gents. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
See you, fellas.
See you.
Yeah. Michael Parkhurst, the captain.
Yeah, El Capitan.
El Capitan.
That's good though. Because I know our time, really his time. I know he's going crazy, but it was kind of cool because I hit on it a little bit. We started this Twitter Spaces show. You guys, a lot of y'all know this already, and we were just getting going. It was just us on Twitter talking with all you guys, everybody else listening after matches last year, and Parky was super gracious, super nice. Came on during the season, our first guest, and then he actually came on. I think, was it right before the World Cup started, or was it during the group stage?
It was right before, yeah. One of those.
Yeah, came on and chatted with us. Just super cool guy. I actually got to say hey to him. I don't know if he remembers this. We got to say hey to him at the Benz last season near the end. He was down there, and just everything that everybody thinks about Michael in terms of like who he was for this team. The dude's just a good guy. Everything out. I mean, he's always been super cool, super easy to talk to, and I hope Rhode Island takes off like nothing else. I'm super excited to see that happen.
2024.
Yep, coming up.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts? We went a little long tonight. know if we had
officially
any
our
parting
longest.
shots. What?
I think this is officially our longest episode,
It
Ever.
is.
but for
Ever.
good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. For good reason. But yeah, thanks everyone for hanging with us. And thanks again to Michael Parkhurst for his time. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, Scars and Spikes, the letter and Spikes. Instagram, Scars and Spikes. Patreon.com/Scars and Spikes. Like, follow, subscribe on YouTube if you are not already. And go USA on Sunday.
Yeah, and we'll be recording another Patreon episode here in the next few days or next week, and we'll get it out there.
Yes, we will.
Parting
Shall we hit
shots. My only one is I just am really, really excited Parky came on and said what he said about the defense. That's really
that's gonna draw some attention, probably.
but I mean, it's one thing for us all to scream it, right? But to have a guy that lived and breathed that position for so long
Yeah.
come out and say, like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they got to fix it. And here's
Yeah.
possibly some ways to do it. Take ownership. That's a big freaking deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. I like it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and
Likewise.
just like the question about Pineda, and you can only say the same thing so many times in a press conference, where just the media even starts asking the question, how many times are you going to say the same thing over and over and over? I just like Parker said, I like Pineda. I have nothing against him. This is just the Big Ten games and playoffs for him. You hope it works out for him, but he's got the tools, got the talent. I'll move on.
agree.
Ghostbusters quote.
I did not know that it's a Ghostbusters quote. It's another movie I've not seen.
Oh my God.
What?
Add it to
my
the
wife.
list.
You know, I got to say this real quick. I get made fun of
Quickly.
by my family. I don't know. I get made fun of by my family for not watching movies a lot when I was a kid. I think you might have me beat. Maybe.
I probably did.
I'm going
I
to
didn't-
drive-in to see Ghostbusters tomorrow night.
Hey.
Are you?
Yeah. Double feature.
Look, Tommy watches enough movies for both of us, so
What's
I
the
do.
What's the second movie?
That actually is the second movie. The first one's Haunted Mansion.
Oh,
The new Haunted
okay.
Mansion.
I heard it wasn't doing so well.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I'm really just going to see Ghostbusters again. It's like my probably like literally. I broke the original cassette that my grandfather like illegally recorded off of Cinemax back in like 1988 or whatever.
Okay, statute of limitations is expired.
I broke the tape because I rewound it so many times for the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man,
Wow.
and that's how many times I've seen this movie. So
Wow.
I have the Ghostbusters Lego house in the next room.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Bring it to show and tell next time.
Yeah.
I will.
Of course. Let's see it.
All right.
All right, let's get out of here.
Good times, guys.
Thank you for watching, listening, liking, subscribing, and all of that fun stuff.
Thank you.
And we will thank you to our Patreons. Remember, patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. And we will see you when? Soon.
week?
Next week. Same
We'll
time,
do
same
some
channel.
Patreon stuff, and definitely next week. Coach B will try to get you a jersey.
Go
Get it
Mets
signed by
tonight.
Doing my best,
Parkhurst.
Brandon.
All right. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.